grandparents? Do you have people, if you homeschool, come help you teach? Like, have other, there's a lot of people who care about education. My Roseville United group, hardly any, like my parent group, hardly anybody are parents. Like, there's just people in the community that care and sacrifice. Like, have you guys received any help from other people?
Presently not. We know friends who have, which is awesome. My parents are in North Carolina, and it's, Liberty does a scholarship drive. They've been a part of that and supported Liberty in those ways, but yeah, not directly.
Not directly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest way we've found help is through our church. There are people in your community and in your church that speak another language, that play piano, that have other kids your kids' age. Financially, we haven't received any help. We don't really get a lot of help with like people watching our kids or co-teaching them, but just taking those opportunities to use other people around us and their skills to, enhance or make more colorful our kids' experiences. So.
And did you want to answer that? Oh, no. Do you guys, I know there's like ways of, I know a friend who worked at Twins games to make money. Like, do you guys have any tips like that, or working at the school to subsidize tuition? I don't know. Do you guys have anything like that you'd like to talk about?
Part of the scholarship drive that Liberty does every year in taking money in is to give families an opportunity to work out their financial situation. So our scholarship drive is happening right now, but it is investing in the school with volunteer hours. And so I do that with my kids and in their classrooms. I coached basketball for a number of years, actually with Jonathan's wife. And so there's those opportunities. The child tax income rebate or credit that came during COVID, that was our school choice. We put it right into Liberty.
Yeah, for volunteer hours at our school, we try, again, this is a value thing, we want to, in any community you're a part of, to contribute value. And so, my wife coaches, I hope to coach baseball when my boys get old enough, but right now my wife is currently assistant coach for the high school boys volleyball team. So we don't have any high school boys in our home, but she loves coaching, she loves helping out, she loves pouring in, investing at Liberty. And so just being able to contribute value in that way, showing up, being present is something that again, is a value for us to try to do it. I think it helps us being present, being there. We want to be a family that our school wants to be in. And so by trying to contribute value in that way, I think it's put us in a good situation.
All right, so for us, really what we haven't really assessed like using others, so far yet. But I know what we normally do is we have right now we are up in a pledge fund and mention where we can like save up for a certain curve. So right now we use this in Duffy, which was fairly affordable for us, and it was cheaper for us to use it, and we use that curriculum crazy. We use that curriculum, and so just being wise with what we have, and then having a vision and a goal to kind of just execute that, So, but as far as using the resources around us, we kind of fixed on doing a certain thing right now that works out well for us.
Is there any other question you want to answer that I didn't ask you that you're itching to tell people? Okay. Otherwise, I
I want to touch on the curriculum thing, because that I think is the biggest expense and the kind of biggest scare. And so my husband mentioned McGuffey. So if you have a composition book and a library card, you have an extensive curriculum. Because, I mean, we would take our 50-cent composition books, go to the library, get my daughter mentioned bugs, I don't know where she is, but we would get every single book there was on bugs, and we'd take our composition books and we'd notebook, and we'd read books together, write down something you learned, the life cycle of this, whatever. Just that alone is an incredible resource, because you can get virtually any book delivered to your library for free. And then he mentioned the McGuffey readers. So those are ones that were used in like the old one-room schoolhouse. And they're free online, they're free domain. You can go to, I think it's archives.org, and you can get a ridiculous amount of school books for free that you can download on there. That's what we did as the foundation of our homeschool, was a 50-cent McGuffey book, or a 50-cent composition book. And I like the composition books because they still have all their composition books from when they were in preschool till current. So everything they've learned in science or history, or they have like a beautiful thing that they drew pictures and made maps and did all of that themselves, and they keep all those so they can go back and look at everything they learned and invested in. So that's how we kept costs way down. I mean, that's virtually free. And the education they receive is incredible. I was always kind of nervous when testing came around. It's like, because you always kind of feel like you don't do enough. And then when they test and they're like post-high school and everything, you're like, oh, okay, good. We're doing something right. We're just reading McGuffey's and reading library books and learning, you know? So the curriculum thing can kind of get you in a rut, but you don't have to spend a lot. You can spend a couple dollars a year on school, which is what we did for a lot of years. We've home educated, so I hope that encourages you guys.
One thing to think about is the future as well. So I was homeschooled. My brothers are currently being homeschooled. One of them graduated at 16 years old and is at Rose Home in engineering. But the beauty of homeschooling too, having kind of both backgrounds, my kids are in private, I grew up homeschooled, is you can tailor the education how you want to and pursue an aspect of that and go so intense in your schooling to feed that hunger for learning that and I don't know if I recommend college right now, but you can usually get full ride scholarships based on how well you learn your subjects. So that's another side of the financial part of it, is that generally private school and homeschool kids get substantial college scholarships. So if you put the time in now, it benefits later.
One thing I'd just like to encourage everybody, because I talked to a few people who are just like, I don't know where to get started, is there is no time like the present to get started thinking about how you're going to strategize, how you're going to fund your education, whatever. And whether that be, talking to one of these folks who have the first-hand experience, reaching out to me, talking to my team, having a family meeting and figuring out your strategy. That's what I would say is, if you're going to take away one thing from this is take some action, right? Is figure out what your next step is, what your next action is going to be, and there's a lot of different resources here, like I said, that you can take advantage of, and that'd be my number one thing for everybody, just figure out one thing you're going to do to take that next step, and then that just keeps going, and it's like the domino effect.
Whoops, it's my phone. But I thought the mirror's off. Nah. Okay, so.
One last.
And then I have one other question from an audience.
So one of the main criticism we get is, well, you guys are not expert at teaching.
Amen, yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, okay. So no one else is the foremost expert on your child than you are. As a parent, no one else knows them better than you, or should know them better than you, okay? Because of that alone, you are the expert, and you have the greatest and most impact on them, and also the greatest investment in them. So I would just like to just encourage you guys, you know, with that because we just got that a lot, you know, earlier on. It was, you know, you guys are not experts, you guys are not this and that. But then also my current mother about as well, do you ever help your kid with their, you know, homework? Who made you the, you know, expert on math?
Yep.
Or, you know, or just, you know, whatever it is. Essentially, that's what we are, essentially, that is what we are doing is walking alongside them and learning with them. I mean, my wife, I used to think that I was a history buff, but now she is like almost catching up with me. And I'm like, wait a minute here. That is my update, right? But yes, so it's beautiful that you get to walk alongside of your kids. And your kids receive from you. And because of that alone, makes you better than, so just encourage you guys with that. Is just do it, you know?
Yeah, you are smart enough to do it if you wonder if you're not. And listen to some of these teachers union speeches and you'll think, hey, I am smart enough. Or somebody else, I won't get into it, but if you're not big enough, think you can't do something, you could run a country. And they always ask if I do something, would you ever run for office? And I'm like, no, not smart enough, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but then it is encouraging when that's what that strategy I've used throughout life. I look at other people and I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So, you guys can do it. And so, one question is, I know you guys, I don't know how, you haven't always had your kids homeschooling, so that's different for you, but if you guys could just think of ways for parents, like a lot of parents are going to be making a switch and the kids don't want to, it's hard. I mean, you could be like, well, you know, I'm the parent, I'm telling you who can do it, but you know, like, things are usually a little more collaborative in the real world than that. And so how do you get kids to buy in to making a change to a private school that they haven't gone to before, or to make a change to homeschooling when they've never done it before? So if you could try to think you some tips.
So I was one of those kids, and what my parents did is they found, so we made a transition from private school to homeschooling because private school got too expensive. And so my parents found other homeschoolers with kids our age, and before we made the transition, we hung out with them and we listened to the kids talk about it and what they got to do and what they didn't have to do anymore. And it just became a lot more easy to make those decisions. And then we made the transition from homeschool to private school, and we did the same for our kids, is that we had them visit, hang out with kids that were in school, and it just helps, it makes it real, it helps them make the decisions.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, it's my morning shot. Don't take me. Excitement. My wife is great at that. I mean, she can get them to do things that they were like, no, I'm really not, you know, into it. And then later on, they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? But it's because they see how excited she is about it, or even me sometimes. You know, just get, and kids naturally see that, and they're like, my parents love me, and they want what's best for me. And sometimes that can definitely help change their hearts and change their minds towards, because parents naturally have that investment and that love for their kids. So I just encourage parents to, one, is to do your assignment on it first, study it, and then present it to them. You know, telling them why it is a good idea, for us to do these changes and stuff like that. So that's all I have.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. I have one question, and then we'll do my last question. But since you're homeschooling, now I know you're very bright and you educate yourself along the way, but let's say it's time for trigonometry. You know, my kids have surpassed me in math already. Math is not my strong suit, but I'm good at reading and writing and know something from public school. But what are you going to do when your kids need to learn that, and if you can't remember it? or it's not your strong suit.
I'm glad I don't remember trigonometry, but so I like to give this example. It's me and my two sisters. We have 3 brothers too, but we came from not the best family life, and so I graduated high school, and I had 2 years I did PSEO. In public school, I did PSEO, my last 2 years of high school. My next sister just barely graduated high school, and then my last sister only made it through the 5th grade, so she's got a 5th, 6th grade education. And we all home educate our kids. And I'm by far probably the most academically inclined because I really loved school and flourished in it, where my youngest sister doesn't, right? And the encouragement that I get is she is learning alongside her kids, and her plan is to get her high school diploma alongside with her oldest son, which I'm really proud of her for. But you learn alongside your kid, but there's so many resources, and I think another struggle is where do we find these resources, right? Oh, there's so many resources, that's great. But there are, like teaching textbooks was mentioned quite a few times, and I review homeschool curriculum kind of as a side job thing, and teaching textbooks is one of the only ones out there that has a computer program that teaches the lesson to your children and then corrects each and every problem, and if they get it wrong, it actually walks them through how they got it wrong. So that's a resource. So if you can find, like we have a YouTube channel, and so we talk a lot about resources and give them out and like, this is what it practically looks like, here's what we're doing, here's what we messed up, that kind of stuff. So if you can tap into resources like that, there are. And if you have a kid that's gifted, like, okay, my daughter, Alicia, who is sitting over here on the panel, is an incredible writer. Like, her grammar is post-high school, she can write, she can read, way, like, beyond what I am able to do. But because she's so gifted in it, I just feed her material, and she gets it, and she learns it, and if she doesn't, like she said, we teach them how do I find the answer, because that's a life skill you need. It's not about cramming your kids full of information, it's in real life. If you need to learn trigonometry, how do you learn it? Where do you go? Where do you find the answers? Let's go to the library, let's find someone who's a mechanic or whatever. However, I don't even know how you use trigonometry. Yeah, an engineer, right? But that's more of the life skill that you're giving them is, well, how do you find this information? How do you learn it? Because I'm not going to be with them when they're 25 and they need to learn chemistry or something. I'm not going to be there teaching it to them. So how do they educate themselves? So if you can give them that skill, they can learn anything. It doesn't matter what it is or how complex it is.
Okay.
My mom exchanged babysitting for math lessons. So there was a mathematician at our church, and she babysat her kids, and we got a lesson once a week.
That's so practical. How do you, my one question is, like, for you guys who are paying oodles for private school and making huge sacrifices, like, how are you going to pay for college now? Like, why did you choose lower level if you had to choose versus college? You're going to pay for it all, never going to go on a cruise, keep telling your kids they're dumb. I'm just kidding. You don't want to do that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make that choice? I know a lot of people think about that.
Honestly, it was kind of what Kathy Smith said. It's like, what kind of adults do you want to have? And what worldview do you want them to see the world through? I mean, obviously, I just reiterated that twice, but you have hopefully more than 18 years with your kid, but learning, you have 18 years with your child. And we have explored all of the options in the Twin Cities, and we settled on Liberty because every class is structured to help your child think biblically and with a worldview that sets them up for heaven. for the Olympics and do swimming lessons, or you can prepare them to meet Christ and be a leader around them. And so we chose that sacrifice because we thought, of our 6 kids, yes, we could do this, but there's somebody that can do it better in this point in our lives. Your guys' story is just incredible, and I love it. And my parents did that for us. And I think what we decided is, Lord willing, we put the money in now, and we actually don't really want our kids to go to college but if they did, I think hopefully, we have 3 boys and 3 girls, so I mean, the boys may have to go to college, but hopefully they'll get scholarships, just because the academic level is just so high.
Yes, love it, thank you.
Yeah, with that, you know, for us, the goal, it is about, we're trying to form people. And so it's not just about the information they can accumulate and how quickly they can do it. It's not about just get them to college, and get college done as fast as they can. It's the kind of people we want them to be when they're college age.
Amen.
And hopefully, you know, there'll be scholarship opportunities at that time. But again, the goal is just the people, it's the character, and that's what we love about our school. It's more holistic in that it's not just about information, it's about becoming people, moral leaders for tomorrow, people who can really contribute to their communities, and be invested and help. We're trying to build a world. That's what we need together. We're trying to build a world together. And we want to create people who can be part of that, contribute to that. One thing that's helped us, if you're on the fence, and you know, when it comes to decision making about should we should we do this, or should we continue doing what we're doing, one of the things that helps us when we get stuck is just is think in terms of regret assessment. So the question of what the possibility of most regret, if that makes sense. Well, I'll say this way: I can almost guarantee you, you're going to spend money on schooling that you would not spend there if you didn't do private schooling or homeschool. So over time, it's going to accumulate. You're going to look and see, man, we spent my big number on our kids' education. But I'm going to guarantee you that, you know, for us, our oldest is 14, our youngest is 2. So we're looking, you know, down the road when our youngest is done with school. We don't think, we talk about this, we don't think we're going to say, you know what, I really regret investing in our kids' education. It's just not going to happen. So I think, yeah, we have to think long view. And I think it's just a worthwhile investment, and it's one that you won't regret. It's worth it.
I got one little yeah, and then we'll wrap up after you.
It is going to cost you something either way. So if you're not going to invest in your children's education and their worldview and the foundation of how they think, then it's going to cost you your kid. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Either way, it is costing you something. So I mentioned earlier, something's going to go on that altar, but it's not going to be our kids. And so that's ultimately what it boils down to. Whether you choose whatever type of education, at whatever financial cost, there is a cost. There absolutely is a cost. So.
Perfectly said. As far as the college part goes, is that remember that you are preparing your kids to be mature adults, whether it's a year from now or 8, 9 years from now. So as parents, we need to start having that vision and then planning for it. And for us, as far as college savings go, the goal is to get them the resources, teach them how to plan themselves. So if one of them wants to go to a college, our job is to help prepare them for that. So whether it's them having to take scholarship, because there are tons of resources out there. There are teach them how to find it. walk alongside of them and say, okay, well, exactly why do you want to go to college? Just, let them talk about it. Are there other alternatives to just, pay for it? Like teaching them all of that skills now while they are under your roof, and you guys can have safety in that, or just wait until later. And then if you are going to a college, well then you need to pay for it. Well, how? Are you gonna go far off or stay under our roof where you have, food, shelter, whatever? Giving them all of that resources and options now, and then walking through it with them. Because personally for us, I am not paying for it. That is just it. My kids know that. Like I have told them, like college, I am not paying for it. You need to be the one because you want to teach them while they are under your roof before they go and learn it outside. So that is just the wisdom we have, and that is how we will approach it. Some of you might have different ones. That's okay. So.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said, Alex. I think that was very well said. I think just really, kind of educating your children on what are those options, right? From not going to college to going to a trade school to going to a traditional four-year college to going to some other alternative education. Then there's saving stuff. But there's also, a couple you mentioned, there's like PSEL options, right? So if college is a thing for your children, AP classes, PSEL classes, going in with credits so that, hey, that 4 years of college is now 3 years or 2 years or whatever, and that's a savings there. And that's not even a scholarship, right? You don't have to apply, you just have to take PSEL classes. There's tons and tons of scholarship resources for saving, that sort of thing. So, but that's kind of want to echo what everybody said about, just kind of educating your children and educating yourselves on what are all those possibilities.
Yeah, thank you guys. That's so inspirational, and yeah. And I was thinking about, just that when you have a good education through homeschooling, like how you're saying there's better scholarships available because your kids are going to qualify academically where other kids don't. And even the considerations of whether you want your kids to go to college, because most of them are wastelands, even the Christian ones. So it's a difficult decision, and I tell the Exodus women that we're never doing something like this again. They always make me do things, and then it's a lot of work. And then I retire, and then they just say, we're gonna, if we ever did something again, which we won't, ladies, it would be on college, and like, with people who have our values and post-high school education, skills, whether they go to college or not, which college. I just think that would be really interesting because I went to college, I went to law school, I value higher education, but it was not an easy road because of the indoctrination that I received, and I don't want to pay my cold hard cash to have my kid come out hating me and America and white people. And so I think that would be a good one to do if we ever did